This is the problem we just left off with, so we'll go ahead and move on to number 6. Number 6, there are no fractions, so I'll combine the like terms. I have 1 and negative 6, which is negative 5x, plus 5 equals negative 10. I'll get the x by itself by creating 0 and moving that 5 to the other side. That gives me a negative 15 on the right-hand side. And I'll bring down my negative 5x. I'll divide by negative 5 on both sides. Negative divided by negative is a positive. And so I get my answer of x equals 3. Next problem, I can combine the 1 plus the 4 together, which will give me a 5. I can get rid of the positive 5 by putting a negative 5 on both sides. And then I can divide by negative 3 on both sides. 3 does not go into 13 evenly, so I end up getting the answer negative 13 over 3. Here's another one of those fraction problems, so let's discuss that again. I'm going to circle all of my terms so I know how many times I need to multiply something by another number. Whenever you get rid of fractions and you multiply one number through, you have to multiply it by every single term. So my least common denominator would be 4. It's my only denominator. So I'm going to write times 4 next to each of these terms. And we're going to go ahead and multiply each of these things times 4. 3/4 times 4 gives me a 3x, because the 4's would cross reduce. 6 times 4 is 24, and negative 3 times 4 is negative 12. Now it's just the same old type problems we've been working. So I create the 0. This ends up giving me a negative 36. And then I can get the x by itself by dividing by 3. So I end up with the answer of negative 12. On my next problem, I have a fraction, a big fraction. I have a single fraction on this left-hand side, and the easiest thing to do is to go ahead and make a fraction on the right-hand side. And then we could do that cross multiplication technique. Anytime a fraction equals fraction, I can cross multiply. 1 times 1 minus x is just 1 minus x, and 3 times 10 is 30. So we're going to solve for x. I'll move my positive 1 to the other side by putting a negative 1 on both sides. It gives me negative x equals 29. And then I can get rid of the negative by making the x positive, which makes the right-hand side negative. Answer is negative 29. On this particular problem, I have 3 fractions, but if you look closely at them, they all have the same denominator, so there's not a whole lot of thinking to be done. We're going to multiply by the least common denominator, which would be 7, so I'll multiply each of them times 7. And what happens in each case is the denominator cancels with that 7, so we get 3x plus, those 7's cancel, 5 equals negative 1. Solving this equation, getting rid of the positive 5, we put negative 5 on both sides. I get 3x equals negative 6, and I'll divide by 3 on both sides, which gives me a x equals negative 2. The last problem looks really, really complicated. We'll make it look really nice by getting rid of all the fractions. Again, I'll circle all of my terms. They're separated by plus, minus, or equal sign. The least common denominator is not 6, okay, because you can't make the 4 as 6. 6 times 2 is 12. The way I come up with my least common denominators is I look at my biggest number and start finding multiples of it. So the least common denominator is 12 because each of these numbers would give me 12 if I multiply by something. So I'm going to put times 12 on each one of these. So off to the side here, I'll do 2/3 times 12 over 1, cross reduce, and I end up getting 2 times 4 is 8x. Off to the side, I'll put x over 4 times 12 over 1, cross reduce, and I get 3x. The next one, I have minus, let's see, 1/6 times 12 over 1, cross reduce, and I get 2. And the last one, 7 over 2 times 12 over 1, cross reduce, end up getting 42. Now this is much easier to work with than all those fractions. So we're going to combine like terms, which gives me 11x minus 2 equals 42. I'll get rid of the negative 2 by adding 2 to both sides. And I get 11x equals 44. Divide by 11 on both sides, and I get x is a positive 4.